Hola amigos, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Emma Bennet and I am a contemporary romance writer. I also write Regency romance, children's picture books and non-fiction for writers, and I am a freelance book coach and developmental editor. I also teach creative writing. Anyway, it was Valentine's Day yesterday, and as a romance author, I do like to think about love a lot, talk about love, write about love. I love Valentine's Day, and it got me thinking about how sometimes we don't always appreciate the people that we love, and how what's really lovely about Valentine's Day is that it's a great excuse to show people how much we love them. And that led to me thinking about how I am definitely guilty of not always appreciating the fact that I get to write. I get to write for a living, I get to work from home, and that's pretty awesome. But it is so easy to take that for granted and to fall out of love with writing. So if this is the case for you, then I'm hoping in this video to offer some tips and tricks to mean that you fall absolutely head over heels in love with writing again. If you haven't had a chance to already, please make sure that you boop that like button and subscribe if you're not, because we do have a lot of fun over on this channel. My first tip for you is to make sure that you love your writing environment. So by writing environment, I'm kind of encompassing everything about where and when you write. So for example, I know that I am completely useless in the mornings, so there is no point to me doing something crazy like setting an alarm for 5 a.m, getting up and starting to write immediately. I mean, I would seriously never do that. It would be a complete disaster. I tend to write best mid-afternoon or quite late at night. So that is my kind of ideal writing environment. I also know that I always like to have a cup of tea or coffee with me when I write. And at the moment, my absolute favourite place to write is on the sofa. So we have these big leather sofas and I'm tiny. So I like to go in the corner of one of the sofas with some cushions behind me and blankets on me, with my trusty cup of tea and my laptop on my lap, and maybe even lighting like a nice candle that smells all nice. Sometimes I like to have music on when I write, but it really depends on what I'm working on. Definitely not if I'm editing. So have a think about what would work well for you. Do you write best in your kitchen or in an office, or do you actually like to be out of the house when you write? I know some people who really like the distraction of having lots of other people around when they're writing. That's just what works for them. Like I say, some people like writing early in the morning, some people late at night. Work out what is your ideal writing environment, and yes, it definitely can involve chocolate if necessary. My second tip is to consume a lot of stories. So by this, I mean, yes, reading a lot, reading widely and not just in the genre that you write in, but also consuming stories in any shape or form. So I know that I have definitely been guilty of thinking that reading stories is the only way that a writer can kind of get inspired and really learn about the nuances of their particular genre and how stories work really well. I do maintain that immersing yourself in stories is a far better way to learn how stories work than reading any number of craft books. But it doesn't necessarily always have to be books that you are reading. Great films, great TV series that you enjoy definitely count. So please don't feel that just because you're, not reading 100 books a year or whatever, that you are not taking in stories. The key is to be taking in different plots and characters and all the things that interest you and can inspire you from all kinds of different places. And that is going to mean that your brain is just full of all of these different ideas, and hopefully it should enable you to come up with some fantastic plots of your own. I would also suggest that you experiment with different forms of writing and different genres. So I teach a creative writing class, and it has meant that I have been trying out so many different things with my writing, things that I never really would have thought would work for me. But guess what? It's been really, really fun, and I think I have been inspired by them. So because I'm a working mum, got a lot going on with my life, I do tend to go, okay, this is my writing time. I need to sit down and I need to work on my manuscript. And that means that I kind of have never really played around with different genres or with poetry, for example. And that's something that I did have a little play with my creative writing group. We were asked to produce some poems for an exhibition, and I think the last time I wrote a poem was probably when I was about 10 years old in primary school. But I thought I'll give it a go as part of the group, and my poem was terrible. It really, really was. It was so basic. I swear my 10-year-old self would have been ashamed with it, but I did it, and it was fun to try. We've also been working on some flash fiction, short stories, and really playing around with different genres. At the moment, we are working on a sci-fi comedy, which definitely isn't something that I would ever have considered writing before. But what we're doing is each week we are each taking the story away and adding a bit, and it has been so fun. What I have discovered, which was very interesting, is that if I am writing flash fiction or like a short story, I don't write romance. And I thought that was very strange until I worked out that it's because if I've only got a few hundred, even a couple of thousand words, I don't think that I could really get across the love between two people. I need many more words for that. So yeah, that was something that I learned about myself, and I tend to go for more kind of thrillery or just general fiction if I am given a short story prompt. Who knew? My next tip would be to identify what it is exactly that is meaning that you're not enjoying your writing. Are you suffering from a little bit of writer's block? Maybe you're completely burnt out, or maybe there's some self-doubt there. I think if we can identify the problem, that's the first step to be able to finding some strategies that will help and hopefully get you really enjoying writing again. I know I definitely have a lot of self-doubt, particularly at the moment with the manuscript that I'm writing. I'm at that stage where I'm not absolutely sure that I can do the job that I've set out to do. So I'm aware of that, and I'm kind of trying to work through it and convince myself that I am capable of doing this. And yes, it is hard work, but I think I will get through it, and hopefully it will be a really good manuscript at the end of it. Next up is write regularly and consistently. I'm not talking about writing for hours and hours every single day. It's very probable that you don't have time to do that. I often don't have time to do that. But if you get used to writing regularly, your brain knows what to do when you sit down at your laptop, your computer, your notepad, or whatever. It doesn't come as a surprise to your brain, and you get used to just being able to sit down and write in whatever time you have available to you. Hopefully this is something that you will enjoy and you will look forward to doing. And I believe it's Stephen King in his book on writing who says that he sits down every day so that the muse knows that he is guaranteed to be there. So if it's ready to visit him and give him some brilliant idea, the muse knows the time that he will be sat and where he will be sat, so that it can just come and drop all those ideas down into his head, or however the muse works. I'm not really quite clear on that, but you get the idea. My next tip is one that I struggle with a lot, and it is to embrace failure. I think a lot of us can be very guilty of attempting to be perfectionists with our writing, and it is not the case that absolutely everything that we write will be perfect, and that's okay, especially if you are trying out different things. Like I suggested earlier, I'm probably completely terrible at writing a sci-fi comedy. I'm definitely terrible at writing poetry, but hey, at least I know that about myself, and it was fun to try, and it got me inspired and just writing for the day, if nothing else. Learn from your mistakes and keep pushing forward is what I say. Now, my final tip is a really, really good one, and that is to join some sort of writing community. It is really, really inspiring to be surrounded by people who have the same passions as you. And there are so many different ways that you can do this nowadays. You can go and do something in person, you can join a creative writing class, or you could go to an online forum and join that. You can join in lots of the live streams here on YouTube. There's such a wonderful community with many of those, and it is just so great to speak to other people about writing, hear what they're doing, have a little whinge if you need to. They can help you through some of your plot problems or just encourage you if that's all you need. But honestly, this one I really, really, really recommend. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I do hope that you've enjoyed this video and that the tips were useful. Please remember to boop that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're not already, because I would love you to hang around, and I will catch you in the next one.